Hello, my name is Zachary Waters, and for my paper presentation, I am showcasing the paper Kiss from a Rogue, Evaluating Detectability of Pay-at-the-Pump Card Skimmers. This paper was written by Nolan Scaife, Jasmine Bowers, Christian Peters, Grant Hernandez, Imani and Sherman, Patrick Traynor, and Lisa Anthony. It was originally presented at the 2019's 40th Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineer Symposium on Security and Privacy. Using obtained records of all reported gas pump skimmers between March 2015 and November 2018 from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, this paper is one of the first long-term studies of gas station skimmers, examining and evaluating many of the defense methods available to consumers. Credit card skimmers are a malicious device that are added to a credit card reading machine. The skimmer intercepts the unencrypted information stored on the card's back stripe. Once the credit card information is stolen, the card can be cloned and used for fraudulent purchases. EMV chip cards were created to address the vulnerability of magnetic stripe cards by encrypting their card's data. Skimmers come in many different shapes and varieties. Their form and function differ depending on where exactly in the transaction process they plan on intercepting a card's information. Overlay skimmers perform their attack as the card is inserted into the card slot and are most likely to be detected by an observant individual. EMV shimmers and deep inserts sit inside the card reader slot, making them much more challenging to detect. Wiretap and internal skimmers steal the credit card's information as it's traveling through the device's communication wires. Skimmers are often accompanied by pinhole cameras, pin pad overlays, and or other devices that let the attacker acquire the victim's accompanying pin information. This paper's focus on gas stations is due to their many attributes that make them uniquely susceptible to skimmer attacks. The first factor being that gas stations allow long, unmonitored access to their pump's credit card reading devices. Secondly, many gas station pumps still rely on reading the more vulnerable card stripes instead of the chip. This is due to the high cost of upgrading and replacing a gas pump, which can range between $6,000 to $10,000 per pump. Thirdly, the locks to secure the internals of gas pumps often rely on using universal keys, which can be easily bought online. Once the attackers have access to the pump's internals, they are in position to deploy the much harder to detect internal skimmers rather than the more obvious external overlay skimmers. And now with skimmers coming equipped with Bluetooth and cellular technology, the attacker can receive the stolen information without having to return and take the risk of being caught while collecting the device manually. Due to the rise of these Bluetooth-enabled skimmers, many mobile apps have been developed that promise to detect these signals and alert consumers of potential skimmer attacks. This study's researchers sought out, downloaded, and examined all apps across both the Google Play Market and Apple Store that purport to detect skimmers. There were 5 Android apps shown across the top row: Skimmer Scanner, ATM Skimmer Detector, Skim Plus, Skimmer Protection Scanner, and Dark Skimmer Protector. There were only 2 iOS apps shown across the bottom row: Skimmer Map and Card Skimmer Locator. Skimmer Scanner is an Android app that scans for available Bluetooth devices and then performs a 5-step investigation of the device. Step 1 begins with checking if the Bluetooth device is named HC05. This is the name for a cheap and easy to use Bluetooth SPP module that is commonly found in skimmers. If this check passes and any subsequent check fails, the app warns that a suspicious device is present. Step 2 has the app attempting to pair with the device using the password 1234, which is the default password of a Bluetooth module. Step 3 through 5 has the device attempting to create a Bluetooth serial socket to the device, sending, receiving, and checking a packet for any suspicious activity. ATM Skimmer Detector is another Android app that works identically to the previous Skimmer Scanner. However, this app has broadened its first step to including checking devices with either the name HC05 or HC06. Skim Plus is an Android app that checks for skimmers solely by looking at the MAC address matching. The app flags any detected devices that begin with any of the shown prefixes. Many of these prefixes have many pre-existing assignees, such as Intel and Lition Technology Corporation, which can result in many false positives occurring. The Skimmer Protection Scanner and Dark Skimmer Protector apps are identical in every way except in their name and icons. They do not detect skimmers. Instead, they are adware designed only to appear that they do so. When you attempt to scan, The apps simply show an ad, make a fake loading bar, and then always display a grammatically incorrect message saying no skimmer found, regardless if an actual skimmer is present. Skimmer Map is an iOS app that lacks any functionality for detecting skimmers on its own. However, it is intended to display the locations of reported skimmers found through crowdsourcing. This app might have been successful, if not for the fact that it was abandoned by its developer, has 0 users, and thus has no information. Card Skimmer Locator is an iOS app that, due to iOS restrictions, is unable to detect devices through Bluetooth Classic, and is instead using Bluetooth Low Energy. The app has a rather simplistic approach for how it flags card skimmers, simply labeling any device detected with a name greater than 14 characters as suspicious. This paper's researchers partnered with 4 law enforcement agencies in order to receive and experiment with 6 internal gas pump card skimmers. Of these acquired skimmers, 5 of the 6 use some form of wireless data retrieval features. SO1 and SO2 use the common HC05 Bluetooth module, while SCO3 and SCO5 use an RN42 Bluetooth module. SO6 uses a SIMCOM SIM800 GSM module that lets it communicate through the cellular network. SO4 is the only device in the group which does not use a wireless signal and instead relies on being physically retrieved by the attacker. Both SO3 and SO5 were damaged upon being acquired by law enforcement and could not be properly set up during the following evaluation. After analyzing the initial state of the skimmers, the researchers tested each app against every other skimmer to see whether it was capable of detecting it or not. These results are currently shown on the right of the screen. As you can see, the only apps successful at detecting skimmers were App A, Skimmer Scanner, App B, ATM Skimmer Detector, and App C, Skim Plus. Apps D, Skimmer Protection Scanner, E, Dark Skimmer Protector, and F, Skimmer Map, lacked the capacity to even detect skimmers at all. Because none of the skimmers use low-power Bluetooth, none of them were able to be detected by App G, Card Skimmer Locator. Skimmers SO3 and SO5 were damaged and were unable to be detected. However, assuming proper functionality, App C, Skim Plus, would have likely been able to detect them due to their MAC address beginning with the prefix 000666. Skimmers SO4 and SO6 are impossible to detect by any of the apps due to their non-Bluetooth communication methods. Where SO4 uses physical means having to actually be removed from the pump, SO6 uses cellular means which cannot be detected by Bluetooth receivers. After seeing the results of the experiment, the researchers decided to conduct a second round to determine whether any of the apps would be able to withstand the attackers incorporating more active evasion methods into the skimmers. They started by using AT commands to make simple changes to the firmware of the Bluetooth-enabled skimmers. They changed the name of the devices from HCO5 to Not a Skimmer, and changed the password from the default 1234 into 5678. They then reran the experiment, and this time App A, Skimmer Scanner, and App B, ATM Skimmer Detector, failed completely at detecting the modified skimmers. App C, Skim Plus, remained successful despite these changes due to its reliance on checking MAC addresses. Although not followed through with another experiment, the researchers go on to describe how a MAC address could easily be spoofed through using more complex Bluetooth modules with more features than just the HC05. For example, the module used by Skimmer SO3 and Skimmer SO5 comes equipped with the feature to hide its MAC address unless in the presence of a predetermined Bluetooth device. These simple methods would allow skimmers to evade App C Skim Plus's blacklisting of MAC addresses. In conclusion, considering Bluetooth skimmers alone, even the best skimmer detection apps are still not very effective, especially against a slightly determined attacker. From the hardware evaluation, only a few detection acts actually successfully detect skimmers, and most of these are easily evaded with trivial configuration changes. Though attempting to detect skimmers based on the MAC address of their Bluetooth modules will result in some successful detection regardless of configuration with standard firmware, this introduces substantially more false positives than true positives. Regardless, MAC address detection can be defeated in a variety of other ways. As we have demonstrated through software and hardware forensic analysis in the previous two sections, the apps available to consumers are ill-equipped to protect them from skimmers. Tamper-evident seals represent another type of security against gas pump skimmers. By being placed on the connection between the hinge and the pump door, opening the door causes the seal to break. Trying to forcefully peel off the seal results in the message of the surface that spells out the word void. A broken or peeled seal acts as an externally visible indicator of tampering, telling consumers to stay away from that particular pump. Of the many ways used to secure gas pumps, these seals are the most commonly utilized method. There are many hurdles that need to be overcome in order to effectively utilize tamper-evident seals. Both consumers and employees need to understand the following 5 key concepts. Presence. Presence is understanding whether a seal should be expected or not at a gas station pump. Some stations use seals, others do not. Seeing a seal on a pump that shouldn't have one is just as much a sign of tampering as a missing seal on a pump that you should expect one on. Placement. Placement is understanding whether the seal was properly placed such that it could alert you in the case of tampering. Observing the picture on the right, you can see a seal that is placed on the hinge of the door, such that when it is opened, it would not break, hiding potential tampering. Intent. Intent is understanding the purpose of the seal. Many people might falsely attribute a seal as a sign of repair on a broken door or lock. Identity. Identity is understanding whether the displayed seal is the correct one for that gas pump. This is important because many of the generic seals are available online for purchase, allowing an attacker to potentially break and replace the seal without alerting anyone. This is why many big chains like Shell, Chevron, and Texaco use branded versions of these seals that are more difficult to copy, but that only matters if you know that these chains use branded seals. Indication. Indication is understanding how to evaluate a seal to determine if it's been tampered with. Seals can be broken in a variety of ways that include stretching, slicing, or tearing. Tamper-evident seals also come with the additional problem of TOC-TTOU, vulnerability, which stands for time of check to time of use, which stands for the time gap between when a skimmer is installed and when a person inspects and notices the damaged seal. This is why the FTC recommends daily check by pump owners. Despite these measures, high traffic locations can still result in an attacker collecting hundreds of cards' data in just a short time span. In Florida, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services is responsible for the inspection of gas pumps, including the pay-at-the-pump payment terminals. This organization is legally capable of opening pumps for inspection and regularly inspects each of the pumps in Florida. They also collect reports from other law enforcement agencies when those agencies are informed of the presence of a skimmer. By teaming up with this department, the researchers of this paper obtained records of all reported gas pump skimmers in Florida between March 10, 2015 and November 14, 2018. These records provide valuable insight into the locations, types of skimmers, and security measures that were deployed at the time of detection. The reported time frame contains 1,588 reports covering 2,072 skimmers that were found across 953 unique locations. In each of the 1,588 reports, there is a free-form comments field for any additional information pertaining to the reported skimmer. Two researchers went through 1,190 of these reports and created a general use code mapping for each, allowing major themes to be statistically identified across these many reports. These include representing what security measures were specifically mentioned in the report, along with their condition and how they were discovered. For example, the most commonly occurring code, tape correctly placed, means the report described the tape as being unbroken, while the secondly most frequent code, tape incorrectly placed, is used if the report mentions the tape being present but not in the right location. Using the codebook as reference, the rate of appearance of seal-related themes highlights the almost over-reliance on seals for securing pumps. This paints an only more troubling picture when accounting for that the majority of reports' comments mention correctly placed seals. One reported skimmer was even found in a gas pump with the only correctly placed seal across all the other gas pumps at that station. The providers of the data confirmed that in the majority of cases, the tape is intact and correctly placed when a skimmer is reported. The presence of correctly placed intact seals after skimmer installation suggests that seals' presence and placement are being attacked. Another potential solution for minimizing skimmer attacks was found by the researchers through carefully observing the geolocation data of the skimmer reports. By plotting the distance from the reported skimmers to the closest interstate exit, the data showed that nearly 50% of all skimmers were found within 1 mile of an interstate exit. Further, 80% of all skimmers were within 3 miles of an interstate exit. And if you expand that range to 5 miles, it contains 90% of all skimmers. In general, this data suggests that driving more than 5 miles from an interstate would substantially reduce risk, but is unlikely to be convenient or viable for most consumers. High security locks were the second most common security measure behind seals. These locks are marketed as being difficult to pick and having complex keys that are designed to be more difficult to duplicate. Despite that, the evidence from the reports showed many situations where, despite having high security locks, the pump was still broken into and a skimmer was installed. The researchers asked law enforcement how criminals were getting past these locks and were described many situations in which high security keys were stolen or loaned and bought from the store attendees for hundreds of dollars. Accordingly, these locks are insufficient on their own for preventing skimmers and cannot indicate tampering without physical damage. As previously discussed, in Florida, operators are generally required to deploy one of 3 mechanisms for securing their pumps: tamper-evident seals, a device that will disable the terminal when opened, or an encrypting card reader. The data found by these researchers show that tamper-evident seals are overwhelmingly the only control reported present when skimmers are found. Neither disabling devices nor encrypting card readers appeared in reports, suggesting that either these devices are effective or not in use. Anti-tampering equipment is a device to electronically disable a terminal when open and is commonly found in ATMs. However, it is unclear if adding these devices to gas pumps is financially feasible, or how store operators with single on-site employees would handle false positives. Encrypting card readers encrypt the card's data after passing the scanner, making internal card skimmers worthless as the sensitive data is masked as it is processed through the device. These devices would also require additional care and deployment, which may be infeasible for small businesses. In conclusion, the researchers note that they have found overwhelmingly strong evidence to suggest that consumers have not been given the tools necessary to protect themselves against pay-at-the-pump card skimmers. They note that while skimmer detection apps are available for the most popular mobile platforms, few can detect any skimmers at all. Moreover, through a forensic analysis of actual skimmers recovered by law enforcement, they demonstrate that those apps can be trivially evaded. Finally, Through a long-term comprehensive analysis of skimmers discovered over the course of nearly 4 years, the researchers show that anti-theft mechanisms such as tamper evidence seals provide little impediment to criminals. The researchers go on to argue that waiting for EMV chip deployment at gas station pumps ignore the massive expenses and logistical challenges facing that industry. Instead, the researchers call for a more coordinated effort to protect consumers and reduce fraud.